Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fierceness of the Mother Global Conference. I am your host, Jocelyn Mercado, and I am honored and thrilled today to be speaking with Clare Dubois. Welcome, Clare. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
And so for everyone who's joining, please go ahead and put your name and location in the chat so that we can see where you are all calling in from. We have such a lovely global group gathered for this conference. It's really been wonderful. And Clare, you are our final interview for the conference. So everybody has been waiting and very excited to hear what you're going to say here. So let me just give a little my little introduction and introduce you to everyone. So in this conference, we are gathering for powerful conversations with both women and men to reveal and restore the ancient feminine ways of knowing. This event is designed to open up space for all of us to reinstate the principle of a continuance of life as our top priority. Here you are invited to tune into the guidance from the feminine force of creation and learn how this force can be used to revolutionize and revitalize our world. And so Clare, let me introduce you here. Clare Dubois is the founder of treesisters.org, a global women's movement supporting humanity's evolution into a restorer species. She is an earth-loving social entrepreneur and inspirational speaker known for her direct catalytic energy, her whole systems approach to behavior change, and her unending loyalty and love for the natural world. In her own life, her aim is to reclaim balance, astonish herself, and be walking permission for those who are fed up of being held back and just want to have a go. So, Clare, I love your topic here, Woman Unleashed, the undeniable magnificence of she. And this just ties in so beautifully with our overall theme of fierceness and the feminine and all that we've been talking about in this space. So I would love to begin by asking you about this fierceness, and I feel so strongly, and I've said this a few times now, but it's just so strong that, Mother Earth is fierce for us. We are her children. She's fierce. She's trying to warn us. She's trying to help us. And then as the children, we need to be fierce in protection of our mother. So how can we, well, I guess the first question is, what has gotten in the way of our fear?
Everything's gotten in the way. We are half of a species that's been told that we're less than. We're half of a species that's been told that the very cyclical nature of our bodies, which is the source of our power, is shameful and dirty and to be hidden, and depending on which culture you're in, to be despised. We've been taught that our sensuality and our sexuality is dangerous. Again, the source of our pleasure, the source of our power. We've been taught to fear each other, thanks to the witch burnings. And those of us that are at least Western women are all descendants of those who watched while those that were cast down were tortured and burnt. And we were taught in those times that in order to survive, we had to belong to the men. And in order to belong to the men, we had to conform to a certain way. Woman has been conditioned away from our power, away from our fierceness. We've been forced to be dependent on the men. And we've belonged to the men. This weird evolutionary cycle that we've been going through called patriarchy, that is the shadow masculine and the shadow feminine, the dominant masculine that stands on the throat of the feminine and expects her to be subservient and less than, that's asked us to forget ourselves, and the victim feminine who begs for love and fears to be too much. That game that we've been in has been incredibly damaging for everyone. Incredibly damaging, because it's forced us all to compromise ourselves to the point of living a lie. Woman is not less than. She's not sacred. She's not there to be owned. She's not there to be appropriate. We are there to be the truth tellers. We're there to be the warrioresses and the lionesses and the mothers and birthers of a new paradigm. We're here to demand that life is protected because it's sacred. And anything other than that, anything meek and apologetic, isn't it? And is that me saying that women can't be soft? No. But we have to create a world where it's safe in which to be soft. We have to create a world where it's safe for your nervous system to relax for long enough to actually feel for what nature is trying to tell us. And that is a world within which women are not threatened. And that is a world where it is not hippie-ish or shameful to listen to nature, where the feminine, both in her female form as woman or in her female, how she's expressed through the masculine, through men, but also how she's expressed through nature, is recognized again as the source of all life, utterly sacred, and that the only appropriate way to respond is through reverence and respect. And in that place, you don't dam the river of the feminine, you undam the river of the feminine. And that's what we women need to do, because the river is fierce. The river is fiercely loving. The river knows exactly who she is. The river is still the river no matter how many dams you put in it, but she can't flow. She can't express herself. She's contained and she's curtailed and she's hurt, but she's still her essential self. And so our job is the undamming of who and what we are, and the fierceness will rise because life is rising, because the feminine is rising. There is, conversations that we're having now, we weren't having 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Conversations I'm having now, I wasn't having last month. It's changing so fast.
Yes. So we've had several different speakers on this conference who have said that in the movement to save the earth and the movement to turn things around from our global trajectory that we are on right now, that the women must take the lead. And this is from an Indigenous elder perspective, right? The women must take the lead. That this has been said several times. So how can the women take the lead?
By being ourselves. By allowing the rivers that we are to break down the dams that we have inside us, by no longer being prepared to sit and watch and collude, by allowing the life force that instructs us and infuses us to guide us into action. When I had the car crash that gave me tree sisters, and I literally crashed into a tree and a voice started talking to me, first thing it said was, you have to reforest the tropics. The second thing it said was, you have to mobilize the women. The women are the missing piece. The women are the womb carriers, and earth is womb. Women and nature have shared a common history. What's been done to one has been done to the other. Women have to remember who and what they are. Feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. And I tried very hard not to do Tree Sisters because it was absolutely fundamentally terrifying for me in every way, and I felt inadequate to the task completely. But I couldn't pretend like it didn't make sense. And I couldn't pretend that life wasn't believing in me way more than I believed in myself. And I couldn't pretend that I didn't recognize the truth in what was being said, that so much creative potential is lost to the world because women sit on it through fear of rejection and fear of being too much. And I couldn't pretend like I didn't know that the feminine capacities to emote and to experience and to feel the subtleties of creation is an absolutely of paramount importance to weaving our world back together again when it comes to feeling what is asking to be felt and alchemizing the trauma of our separation from our mother, our earth, that has now caused us to become the species that can just rampantly trash our world and think that that's fine and that somehow technology will save us, whilst we just ignore the brilliance, the magnificence, the complexity of the ecosystem that our planet is. So how do we do it? Well, for me, it was a lot of crying. It was a lot of banging up against all the different ways in which I felt completely inadequate, and then sitting in those inadequacies and sitting with my discomfort and sitting with the tension between everything that I could see was needed to be done and the fact that I didn't know how to do it, and to sit in the fear of getting it wrong, and then to have a go, and then to get it wrong, and then to sit in the shame of that, and to steadily burn out of my system my fear of those feelings, because it's the fear of feeling things that stops us from taking action. But if you can actually learn to be in profound relationship with those feelings and flood them with love, no matter how grim they are, if you can understand that they're the dams in your river, they're not your river. But as a dam emerges, and as you move into your, oh, I can't do it for whatever reason, or I'm not enough, or I'm too this, or what if that, like, to be able to go, oh, wow, look at that layer of untruth that I'm telling myself. And when you alchemize it by not trying to change it, by sitting in it, by experiencing it fully, by letting those feelings drain out of your nervous system, by being emoted, then what happens is the gap between you and yourself that housed that stuff that you don't want to feel, as you feel it, it passes out and the gap closes and you become stronger. Every time you can release the emotional content of a fracture in your system, the fracture closes and you get stronger, you come back to yourself. So I was probably one of the most unwilling leaders you could ever have found inside of Tree Sisters. I was anything but fierce. I was profoundly insecure. I was profoundly neurotic. I was terrified of everyone. I was socially inept. I had no idea what it meant to be a woman. I didn't know how to build a network. I didn't know how to work inside of an organization, let alone lead one, let alone start a charity. I knew nothing. I had none of the skills. All I knew was that my world was threatened and that I couldn't stand by and watch it happen. I had to do something. And this, you know, the template of Tree Sisters that was given to me in the car crash, it was there like this really annoying thing that wouldn't leave me alone, saying, are you going to do it or are you too scared? Are you going to do it or are you too scared? And for 9 months, I sat there going, I'm too scared. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. But it wouldn't leave me alone. And in the end, I was like this with my choosing inadequacy over the vague possibility that there might be some magnificence in here. You know, choosing to stay small, because what if I tried to believe that I could be more than small and I failed? You know, choosing to let my shadow completely dominate my light because it was safer. And I couldn't pretend that it wasn't happening, and I couldn't stomach myself. I just couldn't stomach it. And yet I was too afraid until it got too painful. You know, and I think that's the thing. At some point, it gets too painful to invest in our fears more than the potential that we've got. And right now, quite frankly, with our world going to hell in a handbasket, we've run out of excuses. And, you know, people say to me, how come you're so fierce? You know, I was just on retreat and we were talking about each other's medicine, and one woman came up to me and she just said, you're like a wild beast. And I was just like the three people before her had all just said, you're so fierce, you're so fierce. And I'm just like, I was sat there feeling so soft and so loving, and everyone was just like, rah, at me. And this woman that said, you're like a wild beast. I was just like, huh. Really, that's so, like, this is how people perceive me. I was just like, what do I do with that? And I thought, yeah, I am a seriously wild beast now. Like, I am seriously a wild beast. I am so on task and so unafraid and so over my fears of being judged. They are completely bloody irrelevant at this point. I am completely 100% given to my mission. And it actually makes life, in one way, incredibly simple. Because there is only that. And I'm not giving my attention or my energy to my neuroticism anymore. I just can't be bothered. And it's an actual choice. But to get from, you know, helpless neurotic, which I was 10 years ago, to this person that on a daily basis, sometimes I still don't recognize. was not easy. And I'm not going to say that it was, because it involved me hitting a dam and then sitting in its crumbling, and then hitting a dam and sitting in its crumbling. But you are the dam. That's the thing that we forget. We think, oh, it's done to me. Yes, horrible things are done to us, but we create the dams with that unresolved trauma that we have in our body. So the dam is made of our own refusal to feel, and with a river. So when the dam breaks, when you let it go, that energy is released. It's liberated life force. So suddenly, not only are you held back by that thing that was too frightening to feel because you decided to feel it, suddenly you've got so much more energy available for more dam busting, you know. And now for me, a dam comes up and I'm just like, ah, straight into it. And then it'll fall, and then another dam, ah. And the funny thing is that each time you get stronger, the dams seem to get bigger, because life's like, are you ready for this one? You know, okay, I trust life, you know, I'm damned if I'm going to stay damned, and I'm damned if other women are going to stay damned. And so if I have to stand on stage and roar and cry in order to model what it looks like to not care anymore, I'll stand on stage and roar and cry and just say, what would you rather be, this or this, you know? And the world can judge me, but I'm going to claim my right for my incarnation to be as full as it can. And that's my longing for every other woman, to fully claim our right to live our incarnations fiercely, lovingly, authentically, passionately, erotically, creatively, all of it. Like, because we can, because what else are we here for? And that's fierce, but it's loving.
Yeah.
It's loving.
Yeah. I just want to send out everything that you said as permission for everyone listening to get wild and fierce about what you are feeling in your heart.
Yeah.
Because we all have this capacity to say, that's enough. You know, I don't care about the fears. I don't care about you. Like, it's too big. It's too important. I'm moving forward now. And I'm so empowered by what you're sharing here.
It's like letting, you know, it's like letting the roar of no come up in you. Like, no more compromise, no more pleasing, no more limiting myself, no more keeping the lid on. It's like, sometimes I think it has to get so painful because we're so welded into our appropriate shapes. And there needs to be quite a force in there to be able to go, you know, and it's messy and it's snotty and God, you cry and then you cry some more and then you cry some more and then you feel like you'll never stop crying, and then all of a sudden you do start crying, and then all of a sudden you're on the other side and you're thinking in a completely different way, and suddenly other things feel possible, and then you start down that path and then you get frightened and then you sit and you cry again, and then you compromise and then you can't stomach yourself, and then you get back up again and you start roaring, and then you fall over and you go, fuck, I'm sick of falling over, and then you get back up again, and then you decide that you're going to turn falling over and getting back up again into a dance form. You know, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up. Oh, look, I'm getting better at getting up. Oh, down's really getting easier. And now I'm up again. You know, I'm not taking any of it so seriously, because all the time you're growing muscles. All the time you're growing muscles.
Yeah. Well, I love the joy and the humor that you're bringing into it as well. You know, that's such a good reminder for us all too. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
Because
there's too much to take seriously right now, to be serious about everything.
Right. Things are so serious. And I think that, you know, we as humans, we don't change unless something really drastic is happening. Like, that's kind of the pattern that we have, you know, and I think we're at this point with the earth and climate, and, you know, that like something really drastic is happening, you know, and we're really feeling this, and it's time now. I mean, it's been time. But
it's been time, but you know, suddenly Extinction Rebellion is blasted off in London, and the governments are starting to say the word climate emergency, and even though we're still doing this, like, this is starting to go, you know, we're in trouble. And even if other people are sitting there like this, you know, don't, like, let me stay in the same old. The same old is a completely sick society. It is a sick society, and we wonder why we're getting, you know, cancer levels and suicide rates and all the rest of it happening. You can only go so far in a world view and an economy that requires the death of nature in order to thrive before it falls over. And we're there. Yeah. We're there. You know, dominance over nature, dominance over women, dominance over the feminine. Its time is over. Dominance over our bodies, considering ourselves superior to nature, being in a state of separation from nature. Its time is over. We're just waking up to that fact, but it's done. We can't go on. If humanity is to have a future, we can't go on. So we are at this profound gateway, and it's a time of permission for everything. It's terrifying. It's completely terrifying. And somehow inside of that, we have access to elements of our humanity that the pressure cooker is making available that we didn't have before. You know, our courage, our wild courage, our fierceness, our protectiveness, our outrageousness, our, I'm going to say it whether you like it or notness. You know, our capacity to listen for solutions that are different, our capacity to say no when we've always said yes, our capacity to dream bigger than we've ever dared dream. You know, I'm dreaming dreams. We're doing stuff now that if you told me a year ago that I was going to be thinking like this, I would have laughed in your face. But what I do is I make myself available and I live in service. And so if life says, hey, what about Year of the Tree? What about trying to actually wake up the whole of humanity in 1 year? And I'll go, okay, let's try that then. Do I know how to do any of it? No. Is that an excuse anymore? No. Do you have a go? Yes. Could you fall flat on your face? Yes. Does it matter? No. Not as much as having a go, you know? Yeah. What matters is having a go. What matters is daring. Daring. Have a go. Whatever it is, just start.
Could you tell us something about what Tree Sisters is doing, like the Year of the Tree or whatever feels most important to you? How is Tree Sisters being fierce in the world right now?
We are in the process of building, you're the first people to hear this. We're building a forest coalition of different NGO organizations. And we're calling it the Tree Team. And we're going to basically be gathering as many of the conservation and restoration organizations all around the world into a global campaign that starts with Year of the Tree in 2020 and then will basically run for the following 10 years to see whether we can, in Year of the Tree, basically plant trees in the hearts and minds of the masses and create what we're calling a pivot point where humanity, using the trees, a pivot point where humanity is seeing itself as dominant to nature to, by the end of 2020, have we managed by bringing trees into the consciousness of everybody, see whether people can actually see themselves as restorers. And then we're saying get this is outrageous. We're saying, we've decided that 2020 is the gateway into the age of restoration. So we've now set a course for the age of restoration. We've just decided that's happening. We're going to inform the planet that that's what's happening. And then we're going to figure out collectively how we birth that through our combined bodies. And
that is so powerful.
That doesn't even seem outrageous to me because it's not my idea. You know, the trees are basically saying, do this. We gathered a whole group of different NGOs together. That's what we came up with. We're now plotting together how we're actually going to do it. There are, you know, we're in the process of getting celebrities on board. We're in the process of like starting to work towards a global campaign that will belong to the people. You know, it's run by the women. And what's really interesting is when we got this coalition together, it was more men and women. And the men turned around in the end and said, this is only going to work if the women lead. So it stayed in our hands as the leaders of this. But we are basically trying to create, we are trying to create, but we're creating collaborative platform within which we're then going to work collectively to bring all of humanity in to see these are the lands that are available to reforestation. This is how we actually do it. Here are the NGOs working in those places. This is how much it's going to cost. And then it's like throwing a gauntlet down to churches, communities, cities, countries. What are you going to do for Year of the Tree? How are you going to ensure that your entire country is educated around the fact that we can no longer cut down old growth and we have to restore the lands that have already lost their forest? That's what we're doing. I mean, that's what's coming. That's coming. That's like, I'm working on it now. And meanwhile, we're going to campaign ourselves again in the autumn, going into the winter, to make it normal for everyone to grow their own forest. And we're just building the new infrastructure to mean that when you finally donate to Tree Sisters, you'll be able to see how many trees you've grown over the last 5 years, or when you just give. And we're also opening up for corporates and businesses and hotels and everybody to start embedding restoration, because I'm basically going to come out and say, business as usual has also changed. So it's no longer appropriate for us to be purchasing from companies that are raping the planet and not restoring it. So let's go over here. So this is hugely audacious plan. But in my body, I no longer pay much attention to the realities of not knowing how to do any of this. Or the possibility that people would say, who the hell gives you the right to decide that humanity is going to do A, B, and C? And I just think, well, because that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in the age of restoration. I want to live in a world that cares for its trees. I want to live in a world that has recognized the fact that it has agency and ability to do something about this and is doing it. And I'm going to stand on my mountaintop and bang my drum and yell loudly until there's enough collective momentum and enough other people have picked this up that it's running. And could it fall on its head? Yep. But will it seed something? Yeah, for sure. We will definitely seed something. How far will it go? I have no idea. We're going to discover. Will it change as it happens? Yes, absolutely. But I can't imagine doing anything more audacious than that, frankly. Having the women stand up and tell the world we are now rebirthing ourselves as restorers. We're entering the age of restoration. And by the way, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And, if you're not in, can you just hurry up and get in? Because where we've been is no longer appropriate. Do you understand? Thank you very much. Okay, now come on over here.
Yeah.
That's the only game that exists in here to play. So I can't do anything else. It's really interesting. And I think part of that is because I've given myself to the trees and I'm just doing what I'm told. And they're not insecure. They just know what's needed.
Yeah, they know what to do. This is just brilliant. And so much of what we as humans do and how we behave, is based on our expectations. So what is the power of saying we are in the age of restoration now? By the end of 2020, we're in the age of restoration, and to set that expectation. I mean, that on just the level of the psyche.
Well, how does it feel?
This power.
I'll give everybody here, we've got 44 people here right now. Try it on. We are entering the age of restoration. We are making a shift as human beings to a version of ourselves that is actually committing to normalizing restoring our world. So right now we have 100% normalized consumption with no thought of giving back. Imagine a world where we choose to say absolute normalized restoration. Everybody, it's embedded into everything. How would that feel? Like, what does that do to you? When I go into that world in my mind, my whole diaphragm softens. Like, I can breathe better. Like, I feel less cluttered. I feel more possibility. Yeah, tears of relief. Yeah, so choose it. It's just like, make that adjustment. When we're about to launch a new website, we've been having such technological nightmares. It's like 3 months late now, but when it comes, which will be in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be, when you look at the Grow Yourself section, there's going to be something called the paradigm process. The paradigm process is going to be free. It's going to be an audio, and it's something that you can all do to take yourself through a consciousness shift process from the age of dominance into the age of awakening, into the age of restoration.
Oh, beautiful.
And you'll all be able to do that. And it's going to be really, really amazing to be able to return to it, because your future self is going to be able to start communicating with the selves that we are now in the age of domination and pull ourselves through into that sanity. And I want to make that available to the world.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to make that available to the world.
Yeah.
And that's just so exciting, you know, just like, oh my God, this good idea, you know, bring it out, have a go. And the fun thing about that was I was doing a major event in London a few months back, and they'd put this event on for me, but nobody had decided what it actually was. And I was about to come on stage and then put a microphone in my hand, and there's 200 people standing in the audience looking at me. And the guy says, "Are you ready?" And I literally said to him, "I'm empty. Like, there is nothing here. Like, I don't have a single thought. I don't have, like, there's just nothing." And he was just like, "Well, are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I was completely like, what is going on? And I thought, well, maybe this is a hollow bone moment. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe my complete calm shows that this is perfect. So I took the microphone, and I'm standing in front of all these people. And out of my mouth came, "I'm about to take you through a paradigm shift process, because I don't want a single one of you to leave here comfortable ever again. I want you to leave so uncomfortable that you have to take action. And I've never done this before, and I don't know whether it's going to work." And as I was starting, this process was just coming in. And as it arrived, I took the whole room through it. It took 10 minutes. And many people came up afterwards and said, "That's the most powerful experience I've ever had." And, you know, 10 minutes before, it didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But because I was just standing open and ready and willing and just of service, life was able to go, here's a tool, use it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. And then it worked.
Yes.
And now I can give it out, and then it can belong to everybody, and we can all use it. And it's just, that's the thing about saying yes to life. You don't have to know what you're saying yes to. You just have to say yes. You just have to say, show me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is such a good point. We don't have to know how.
No.
We don't even have to know what, right? We can just say yes and let it take over.
Yeah. You know, we've just started the inner journey of awakening in Tree Sisters again. So we'll spend the next, Ibtizan, I do love you. We're about to spend the next 6 months going around the sacred geometry that is the Tree Sisters map. And so we just started with this full moon, which was the moon of reveal. So we go from reveal in July to embrace in August, and then embody in September, and then into activate, and then into shine, and then into belong in December. And it's free. It's a free journey. You can all take it with us. And you basically come in and you listen to one of these meditations at full moon. This is, you know, we can get it to you, and you can step in. And why reveal starts is because it just says, show me. I'm going to drop anything that tells me that I think I know what I am. If I no longer know what I am, then I become available for the world to show me. If I open my mind, then the world, nature can fill it with what is actually true rather than what I've been conditioned with. That's the blessing of reveal. The blessing of reveal is there is so much more outside of me that can serve me into a closer relationship with the truth as it actually is, not what I've been taught, but the truth actually as it is, that can help me feel empowered in an apparently terrifying time, that can help me feel like I'm deeply supported, even though I'm standing alone on a stage. You know, reveal is an energy that I invite everybody to bring into their lives. And you can do it just by listening to the full moon call that we'll make available to you, because it's an exploration. It's an embodied exploration and letting go of your boundaries to become available to something greater. And then the next step next month is doing that, but with the human heart. It's like opening our heart. Are we willing to make ourselves available at the level of our heart? Are we willing to let people in And then the third month, are we willing to do that with nature? Are we willing to profoundly let nature in? And by the time you finish with reveal, embrace, and embody, if you've taken 3 months to really engage, then you have a completely different level of support in your life and energy coming in different ways in your life, so that when we turn to activate, which is, well, what am I going to do with all of this? You've got enough energy to actually go, well, I'm going to do this, and then have a go. And you've got the support system in place to just say, well, I'm going to try doing this. And your sisters will go, well, I'll be right behind you. No. So
Yeah.
we've got tools for you.
I was just trying to find the link for that so I could put it in the chat. You don't know what the link is, do you?
If you go to soundcloud.com/Tree Sisters.
Okay.
And then the top recording there is the River of Health. But if you drop below that, you'll see Reveal and the Gathering. Well, the Gathering to Reveal. Letting go, the Gathering to Reveal.
Okay, wonderful. I'll put that in the chat.
And then there is, let me see if I can find you the, I may risk losing you completely here, but somewhere there is the, where do they do it? Oh, here we are. I'm going to give you another link. Gosh, I'm being technical all at the same time. This is incredible. How do I get in the chat? How do I get in the chat? Oh, there it is. Here we are. So this, the femiversity.treesisters.org inner journey, that is the whole map of the inner journey laid out for you. That's exactly where we're going to be going, how to get in. There's free gifts in there in terms of interviews with the likes of Barbara Marks Hubbard and Joanna Macy and these incredible people who, the Wild Hope series that we did, that's all in there as well. And then there's an online community in our nest called the Forest Floor Sisterhood. All of the details are in there. Okay. And then you'll also find in there, well, when you go into the nest and you go to courses and then you find inner journey, inside the inner journey are videos and journal prompts and all me sitting there with the map explaining what we're doing and what we're going through and previous meditations and these meditations. There's a huge body of work in there that is literally free and available for you. And if you join it now, then you're going to be able to take the next 6 months and step inside that momentum and have that support. So
leading up to the year of the tree.
Leading up to the year of the tree. Yeah, it's oh my God.
That is so exciting. That is just so exciting. And the age of restoration. I'm gonna make sure everybody that I can possibly tell about that will know about it. That feels so important.
Yeah. And everybody, like just hold it in your bodies. We're entering the age of restoration. Like that's just adopt it like a new tuning fork. Humanity, like when everyone says like, oh, climate change, we're entering the age of restoration. Claim it. And if they look at you as if you're mad, just keep it claimed inside yourself. You know, because 2020 is going to be year of the tree. And actually the UN have declared 2021 to 2030 the decade of ecosystem restoration. It's just these big bodies don't know how to do it. And what we're saying is, we'll do it.
Yeah.
The people will do it. The people will do it. We, you know, instead of having these weird leadership structures which are top down, which sort of absolve us of all leadership, and then you just tell us that we're consumers and we just chomp through our planet. What about we just decide that we're going to have a grassroots-led revolution for restoration? Just because we can, because it's time. And then we take our own leadership and we define our own leadership and we decide what we're going to do.
Yeah. And I love how you're inviting in the big corporations and cities and countries and, you know,
everyone,
as you said. Yes.
Everyone. You know, it has to become the only game worth playing. And if you're not part of that game, please explain to me why. You know, is money so much more important than our children having any future? Is that what's true for you? Do you really not care? Do you have a death wish? Are you awake? Hello? You know, slap. Just like, okay, well, you go and do that over there. We're going to have lives that we can look back on and say we gave it all that we got. You can have a life where you can sit there and say, oh, I did, you know, had a really big bank balance, but then suddenly it wasn't worth having because there was nothing to buy anymore. Oops. You know?
Yeah.
We choose the game. To me, that's the privilege of being alive right now. We choose the game. We choose our value system. We choose our future, and then we live into it.
Well, I want to see what our audience would like to add, what questions our audience might have here. So if it's okay with you, Claire, I'm going to open it up for the audience Q&A here. Thank you so much for everything you've shared so far. This has been so powerful and moving. So if you would like to ask Claire a question, or if you've had a big insight, you know, that you would like to share from what she has said here so far, go ahead and raise your hand. There's a hand icon. You can click on that and we'll bring you over by video or by audio only. And then also, if you would prefer, you can put your questions into the chat and I will read them. And there's just so many beautiful comments in here, Claire, for you. So don't be shy. Raise your hand. Put your questions in the chat. And since we don't have any yet, I'll ask you what I wanted to ask you next, which I love that in your bio you have that one of your goals is to astonish yourself, right? I love that as a goal. And so, and it seems you're doing quite well toward that goal. What would I kind of want to invite everybody on to also to have that as one of your goals, right? And what can we do to astonish ourselves? And what advice would you give to us, Claire, if we want to astonish ourselves?
You know, when I had the car crash and my life flashed before my eyes. So I saw my past. And then my future life flashed before my eyes and I saw my future. And I saw a woman leading a global movement. I saw her on stage. I saw her doing things that were beyond abhorrent to my nervous system as it was, terrifying, impossible, actually impossible. And yet there was this tiny little part of me, like this one golden thread in the middle of an entire coal mine. And that golden thread knew that it belonged on that stage. Mm-hmm. And I was so pissed off that it was there. I was so pissed off that I couldn't pretend like it wasn't there because, everything else may have been black, but it was just going, that you can do that. And it was just no, I can't. Don't ask me. No. And it wouldn't leave me alone. But it was tiny. It wasn't the muscle set needed to get on stage. It didn't know it had the muscle set. It just knew that I wasn't everything that I'd been taught that I was by my father. I wasn't nothing. I wasn't useless. I wasn't evil. I wasn't, there to be trashed and whatever else. And so in the end, I said yes. And the process of cleaning away all the coal dust and discovering that there's pure gold underneath. It's agony, 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 less agony, less agony. Actually quite interesting, really quite interesting. Agony again, a little bit better. Oh, now I'm over a hump and suddenly there's more gold than coal. Mm-hmm. And suddenly you make this adjustment and it's just oh, and you don't know when it happened or how it happened, but suddenly you're in a different gear and suddenly you're not willing for everything to go black again. You actually can't bear that there's any black at all. And you want to get rid of the black and you want to find the gold. And suddenly you can't bear seeing everybody else coated in black either. And you want to see their gold. And suddenly the only thing that actually matters to you is getting the gold, even when, the world falls apart, which it regularly does. And you lose yourself and you lose your confidence. It's not the truth. The coal dust is not the truth. The gold is the truth. The river is the truth. Yeah. And if you can bear to be honest with yourself, if you can bear to feel for the golden threads that know who you are and know what you're capable of and have been whispering to you forever, and you may occasionally listen and then go back to like normalcy, but that gold is astonishing. Who you are is astonishing. It has to be, or you wouldn't have incarnated now at the most crucial time for humanity.
Yeah.
You know, your capacity for love is astonishing. Your capacity to get over your fear is astonishing. It's not about having to be as bold as I've been in life. My God, this was just a really big incarnation that was on my line of incarnations. That you don't have to do it like this in order to be astonishing. Just saying no when you mean no can be completely astonishing. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact, I'll tell you what's most astonishing about myself for me. I used to doubt everything that came out of my mouth. I would doubt everything. And if I started to feel any level of self-confidence, I thought I was going mad. That was my father's gift to me, like, because I was so useless as a woman that to have any self-belief whatsoever, I must be actually insane, because the only sane thing was that I was useless. And so clawing my way through my programming to a place that could claim my own value just because I chose to claim my own value, not because I had been conditioned away from it, or because the universe prefers men, or because whatever, you know, that you'll know inside yourself where you're not being fully honest with yourself about your longings, not being fully honest with yourself about your needs, not being fully honest about yourself about your gifts, not being fully given in your expressions of pleasure, not living a life that causes you to keep yourself less than. You'll know, only you can know. And then the gateway to astonishing yourself starts with, God, have I had enough of this yet? You know, have I had enough of this yet, or do I need more? Are you tired of self-compromise, or do you need more? Are you tired of playing small, or do you need more? It's really confronting, but it starts with honesty, and then like, okay, there's a dam. Now what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to have to get to know it to take it down to the point that my river can just go, oh, pfft, done. Don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a terrifying question, and a good
Yeah. Have you had enough of not being met in your relationship, or do you need more? Have you had enough of doing something that you don't love, or do you need more? You know, what's interesting about the question is it also acknowledges the fact that we do sometimes need to do time. Like, we do need to do time. We do need to be truly and utterly over something before we can move on.
Well, we have Jean with her hand raised here. So Jean, let me bring you over to share with us. All right, welcome, Jean. We can't see you yet, but we should be able to hear you.
Just muted yourself.
Yes. There we go. Can you say
Can we see your video?
I don't think we can hear you, actually. You're not muted anymore, Jean, but we can't see or hear you. She may not be on video. There's not a video icon there. Okay, Jean, I'm so sorry. I don't think we can.
Are you able to write your question in the chat? While you do that, I will answer Phoebe. The president of the Brazil wants to raise the rainforest for all kinds of profit. I'm trying to imagine how to overcome something like that, seemingly big. Any thoughts about that? Yeah, I mean, the whole reforestation, deforestation sector are thinking about that. We are in a time when we seemingly want to elect the most overt representations of the shadow masculine. Almost to me, it feels like a caricature of abdicated personal responsibility. Like we just believe the ridiculous crap that we're fed because we just don't want to take responsibility. And so for whatever reason, we are electing the Bolsonaros and the Trumps of this world. And then we're sitting in the desecration that they create. And I wonder whether it's because we need to literally lose almost everything before we will collectively raise our voices to do something about it. I know that there are people out there, I've been in communication with some of them who are close to Bolsonaro. And there's a lot of very deep thinking going on about how to represent choices in a way that works for a masculine ego of that way. Meanwhile, what we need to be doing is working with Amazon Watch, Rainforest Action Network, and Women's Environmental Climate and Action Network, and the Pachamama Alliance, and all the other organizations that are standing with the indigenous peoples of the rainforests, while we've got Bolsonaro trying to yank them out and say, oh, the NGOs treat them so badly, let's take them out of the forest so that we can, turn them into useful citizens. And it's the brainwashing that these leaders do is completely astonishing. And you can get really bogged down with the injustice and the insanity of it. And my way of dealing with it is by just saying, okay, that's a level of consciousness that exists on our planet, which is being made visible. And there is a response to it that's also happening. So in a way, Trump is the best organizer we've ever had in terms of getting people to actually look at their own levels of personal responsibility. Brazil did a really weird thing, absolving responsibility. And who knows what the rest of the world is going to have to do to help Brazil wake up. But, they're their own people. It's like, yeah. So my way is figure out how to launch something big enough and loud enough and sane enough to make a difference, and then just keep trying to build on it. And meanwhile, give our support where the people that are on the ground doing the protection and the working with need us, Yeah. Don't know whether that answers, but.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And so we're 3 minutes until the hour. Do you need to go at the hour? I want to respect your time.
No, I don't.
Okay. We do have one more question in the Q&A then. This is from Jean, who was trying to come on video. So she said, I live in the middle of the U.S. In the spring, there was a tornado. I've been cleaning up the 8 trees that came down since. One was an old growth 100-foot pecan tree that is my friend. I now carry his spirit in my heart. Why is the mother taking out her trees?
I don't know whether it's true that our mother is taking out her trees. I don't know that the trees can handle staying. I'll cry now, just warning you. Where I live, there's a fungus that's taking out the madrones, which are my favorite trees, the manzanitas, which are my second favorite trees here, the live oaks, and the bay laurels. These are colossal species and a huge part of our ecosystem. And the trees that I'm looking at right next to my garden are dying. Like the trees that I hang are partly on my washing line are dying. I was just on retreat in Boonville, California, on some of the most beautiful land I've ever seen. It had the biggest madrones I have ever seen. These were trees that it would have taken like 5 of me with my arms outstretched, wrapped around to even get around one trunk or one branch. every single madrone was dying. Every single tree was dying. And why is that? Well, at the technical level, there's a fungus. Why can the trees no longer withstand these pathogens? All over the world, they're dying. Everyone I talk to, their trees are dying. You know, the olive trees in Italy are dying. The cedars of Lebanon are dying. We've already got the beetles here that are taking the ponderosas and here's what I think. And you're talking to somebody that has cried herself raw for days with those madrones. We've lost our relationship with the trees. We've lost our relationship, our communion, the actual communion that means that we're in an emotional reciprocity with the trees. And so we may see them with our eyes, but we're not seeing them with our hearts. And so there is a fundamental absence of relationship the way that the indigenous peoples have in the rainforest. You know, Charles Eisenstein say the rainforests are Gaia's memory of health. And the reason I think that way is because the peoples of those forests are in dynamic, conscious relationship with the forest that they live in. The rest of us, we happen to be living in a culture that has decided that spraying metal from the sky to force rain is a sensible thing to do. And we don't have any choice in that because we don't know who's doing it, whether it's the military or whoever is doing it. You know, in California, the levels of aluminium in the soil are 4,000 times over danger levels around Mount Shasta. 4,000 times. What's that doing to the soil? It's killing it. What's that doing to the trees? It's killing them. You know, we're faffing around with the heavens, these arsehole patriarchal ridiculousnesses, just like we're blowing up whales' brains with seismic blasting in the sea because, oh, look, we can force this and we can do that. And nature, in her magical fragility, doesn't stand a chance. You know, why would the trees stay if all we're going to do is poison them, take them for granted, cut them down, burn them, use them? You know, you can only cut down so much forest before the rest of it dies. You know, the Amazon rainforest is the size of the face of the moon. We've lost 20% of it. It's starting to fail in terms of its ability to maintain the flying rivers that feed the rest of the planet, the rain that it generates. Oh, but I can make beef and soy and all the rest of it. Yeah, but you're dealing with this part of nature that actually provides our planetary rain. But we're so disconnected, we don't see it, we don't understand it. So our trees are getting weaker. They can't hydrate themselves. You know, that's why the beetle epidemic, there was a huge drought. You know, in California, there was a huge drought. We didn't have enough rain for like 5 years or something. So the trees all weakened, really, really weakened. Then you start spraying them with poison. You know, then the rain comes back and the rain is like, we had 6 months of rain. So now we've got mold and fungus. You know, nothing is stable anymore. Like, we're asking these species to adapt really fast to something that they just can't adapt to. So I did this thing. I lost my water bottle on retreat. I couldn't figure out what I'd done with it. And when I found it, it was in the nook of this madrone that I'd been sitting crying with one afternoon. And I found it the following day, and I realized that my water bottle had been sitting in this dying madrone. And I drank that water like a medicine from the goddess. You know, I drank it because it brought her into me. And I sang for her. I sang for the madrones. I listened for the song of the madrones, and I sang it back to them. And I just thought, if all I can do is sing these trees back to themselves so that they get that somebody's witnessing them, maybe I can help strengthen their immune system. You know? But the bigger question is, how do we stop the spraying? And how do we do enough replanting? And how do we stop colluding with the deforestation? And like, there's real actionable things that we need to be doing, which we're trying to figure out what that looks like. You know, what does that look like? How do we do it? I don't have the answers, but I'm hoping that together we do. Yeah, ever feel like we're in the movie Avatar? Yeah. I think that's why he did it, you know?
Yeah.
There was a moment in the film Avatar, do you remember, where Natiri is standing and she's got her bow and arrow and she's just about to shoot whatever he's called, the hero, and that seed lands on the tip of her spear.
Yeah.
I started howling. Like it was the most perfect representation of woman listening to nature that I'd ever seen. Like that moment was just so like, oh my God, there it is. That's how it could be if we can start listening. I cried for the rest of that entire movie. Cry every time I watch the bloody movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Claire.
Anybody else got any easy questions for me?
So yes, people in the chat are saying everyone in the world needs to see this interview. So this will be on YouTube. I'm not going to make this one inactive at the end of the event. I will keep it active. So I'll send the YouTube link out to everyone. So everyone, let's share it far and wide.
Please.
And I'll send it to your team, Claire, as well, of course. So yeah, we will all share this with as many people as we can. And those who are listening to this as a recording, I'll make sure you have it too. So yeah, we will.
So no other questions? No other questions? No other thoughts? Let me see if I can come up with a question.
Okay. I'm just looking through and seeing if I missed any in the chat. But yeah, everybody keep posting.
Helen, what is it?
In the chat.
What's your perspective on how the trees are in communion with the wild ones? What do you mean by wild ones?
So this is Alicia Evans. She's one of our speakers on the event. She's an animal communicator, and her talk was about the matriarchs, like the animal mothers, right? The animal matriarchs. So I believe that's what she means, is the animals, you know.
Oh, well, you know, firstly, your realm is a realm that I'm less engaged with, only not at a heart level. I am with the animals as much as I am with the trees, but I'm so focused on the trees. But so I used to be able, no, I didn't used to be able to. I feel closest to the whales when I'm with the giant sequoias and the redwoods, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it got to the stage where I could go to the sequoias with Mark at night in the dark, and I could point and walk to the trees with my eyes closed because I could hear the whales. And Mark would be like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I'm hearing the whales. And it's so interesting because the lady that I was just teaching the retreat with, she's writing a book called The Whale Dreamers. And I was talking to her about this, and she was just saying, she said, do you hear the whales when you go to the redwoods? And I was just like, oh my God, you're the first, the only person I've heard that said that. But I was talking with some of the people that work with the Kogi of Colombia, the tribe that is having such a hard time maintaining their culture with a corrupt Colombia. The Kogi say that the whales and the giant trees, the sequoias, work together because you have to have a certain mass and a certain density in order to receive cosmic downloads from off planet. And that those downloads come in through the bodies of the whales and the bodies of the trees. My perception when I'm in a state of communion is that all of nature is in dynamic relationship with itself. The trees, the elements, the animals, the birds, the insects, everything is in communion and in dynamic relationship, and the only things that aren't are us, which is why we are so spectacularly destructive, because and I'm not saying that in just a completely judgmental, make wrong way. This is, we've evolved this way. and we now got to evolve back. It's not our natural state. We are made of this planet. We are this planet. It's just everything else is operating in this continuum of interconnectedness, and we've split off and we're bashing it. So I do feel that everything is in dynamic communion. Everything. And then there's us. And I'd love to have time in my life to be able to research and go talk to the elders and understand and climb into that world. I'd love to be able to climb into the shamanic realms and the mythic realms and get off my frigging computer and stop thinking about campaigns and press releases and corporate nonsense. And maybe one day, but those of you that are deeply enmeshed in that world and do have time for those journeyings, like, do it properly for the rest of us that haven't got time. Like, hold that for me, because I can't hold it. Thank you, Alicia. Yay.
We have Helen raising her hand. So Helen, let me bring you over. Hopefully it'll work this time. Helen, it's not letting me unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? We can see you. That's good.
Okay. You can see me?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Great. Yeah, I just put it in the chat, and I think actually maybe you might have been answering it anyway. Yeah, I suppose like myself, I've always, cared about the planet, but there was this week, I think in particular, I've felt it in a real passionate way. I think when I came across this idea of, the earth basically having rights, and I've always felt really, really passionate about, human rights. But I think then, obviously I've made that kind of connection, and so I feel it really, really passionately. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's not just me, but I'm hoping that, the move that, the extinction rebellion, and that sort of movement, but also the other movements for human rights and stuff. And it's all together, isn't it? It's all, I don't know. Yeah, but I suppose you were talking to that. I don't know.
What's the feeling underneath the question? What's the longing underneath what's trying to express itself?
Yeah, no, I think it was just making that connection, and perhaps in me just verbalizing it, that connection is being made. And I suppose, yeah, underneath it is just the sense of kind of like, as I hear you talk, that like, rah, it's like enough. It's like enough of treating the world like, treating each other like this, treating the world like this, it's just, it's, I don't know. Yeah. Yes. I think, yeah.
Yes. And, I do believe that part of this is life speaking through us. And that's why when I say drop drop the concept that you even know what you are or what you're for. And let the raw emotion have you for a while. Like, one of the things that I do is I dance. Like, I get up, I feel like shit, I put some music on, I dance, I cry, I start having ideas, I move the energy, like, oh, great idea. Like, can we let life come through us? Like, all of these things, Extinction Rebellion, the youth movement, the striking for schools, the UN coming on board, like, Extinction Rebellion were just gifted £500,000 by a bunch of US philanthropists, because the US is seeing what's going on over there and going, oh my God, we're just being too complacent. Can we do something? And I'm just like, yes, come on. And the more that we just say yes to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And the emotion will take us there. The fierceness will take us there. If you can run outside and just scream no at the top of your lungs, and you probably run indoors and cry your eyes out for half an hour, and then you'll start writing out some ideas. It's just like, the energy it'll do you if you let yourself be done. Like,
exactly.
Let yourself be done.
And I think people, like, just hearing you talk, and as Jocelyn says, like, sharing this, because I think that's what's missing, you know, for me. I mean, now I'm kind of starting to kind of connect, but hearing people talk really, really, really passionately, I mean, that's what then connects other people, right? But if it's just this flat kind of stuff that we're just seeing, you know, that's seen on the news all the time,
it's unbearable. It's unbearable. And it's just like, that's why it was so interesting having this girl look at me and saying, "You're such a beast," you know, and me sort of going, "Wow, is that how you receive me?" And then she said, "You're dangerous." And I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, I am dangerous. I am dangerous to a system that no longer deserves to exist. I am dangerous to the parts of you that want to hold you down and hold you back. You know, I am dangerous to the people who don't want the truth to be told.
This is it.
You know, I have been sick all my life. And I think I've been sick all my life because I have not let my energy do what it's for, because I was so unbelievably suppressed. I was shamed away from myself. My path to health is becoming outrageous. My path to health is rewilding myself. My path to health is giving me back to myself. Well, then the planetary path back to health has to be giving ourselves back to her, and herself back to her, and coming into the, you know, outrageous aliveness that is life. She doesn't hold anything back. She doesn't go, "Well, I'm only going to blossom this much because what will somebody say?" And I'm not going to strip off my leaves because I can't stand naked in public. She just goes, "Pa-da!" And then, whoa, you know, here I am, naked and with all my lumps and bumps and imperfections completely given to the sky. That's who I want to be. I want to learn how to let the nature that I am have the fullest expression. It's not going to be tidy. It's not going to be polite. It wasn't put on this planet to be polite or tidy. Neither was any other friggin' woman put on this planet to be, you know, and that's what we've been taught to be, and it's making us sick, and it makes us completely inauthentic. Well, that's why Tree Sisters, that's why it's like, hold hands. Come on. We were too afraid to do it alone, which most of us are. Let's do it holding hands.
Yeah.
You know, during the witch burnings, when they were burning Italian witches, one of the things that used to happen, the women would hold hands and walk into the sea together to drown themselves.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that. It deeply struck me because they would rather take their own lives together as a sisterhood and give themselves to the sea, the mother, than they would die in a lie that was nothing to do with them. You know, if you can walk en masse to the truth of your own death chosen, you can, for God's sake, walk en masse into the truth of a life well lived.
Yeah, this is it. Because you're only dead anyway if that's how you live.
Exactly.
If you live cut off. Yeah.
So are we going to do it? Are we going to hold hands and walk towards a life well lived? Or are we going to just say, "I'm not quite done with being, you know, blur," rather than raw?
Well, I'm definitely done. That's it. No more of how it was before. Definitely not.
And you know, it's a pleasure. And use the tools that are there on Tree Sisters. That use them, because we do fall back. We will fall back.
Yeah.
And we fall back for a reason, because the next bit of our shadow is asking to be made conscious. And so it's how to just recognize that, okay, here I am. I'm about to really grow again. Not, oh my God, the world's falling to an end. I thought I'd dealt with all of this stuff. Why is it coming again? Because there's more asking to be made conscious so that you can get even stronger. Just reframe everything. Oh, I'm just growing again. It's okay. I'm horribly depressed. Why? Because I'm growing again. It's okay.
So
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for putting this, you know, for putting this together.
Absolutely. My
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you for attending so many of the live calls. This has been wonderful.
Okay.
Have a beautiful day.
You too.
Do you have time for more?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 2 more hands raised. I do need to go at the half hour, so, but we can. And
we usually do 1.5 hours, you and I never knew whether that was because we were going over time or whether that was because that was the normal time. But we do 1.5 hours. So I had an 1.5 hours in case we did.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. So this is Alicia Evans, and she is the
oh yay!
And she's an animal communicator. Welcome, Alicia.
I wasn't able to be on from the beginning, but I'm just like, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is the rise of the fierce feminine. It's not angry. People are going to be like, oh, you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done. I'm done with the patriarchal bullshit that is affecting our planet and our very life systems here. And that is why the fierce feminine, dogs are all now fierce too. But that's why the fierce feminine is rising, because we have to step up and say enough, because the masculine won't. And I'm not mad at them. I'm just done with bad behavior. That's it. Just love you and no more bad behavior. Period. End of story. That's not conducive to our life here. And that's what the fierce feminine does. So if it looks angry, or if it looks upsetting the apple cart, because we're not being nice, pleasant, women, it's okay.
Just say thank you.
Exactly.
Just say thank you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I ran so inside of this map, the Tree Sisters map, which is the sacred geometry that I talk about, I put whole systems into it. I put whole systems into it so that everybody gets to walk around inside it, and you get to understand yourself as parts of a whole.
Exactly.
And the first time I ever did it with men and women, it was really, really interesting and incredibly powerful. What happened? It was like 20 men, 20 women. And there's the masculine side of the map and there's the feminine side of the map, and the feminine side comes first. So the feminine informs, you're informed by spirit, heart, and body before the masculine side figures out how to respond appropriately, so that self, other, and nature is brought into increased strength, which is the role of the masculine. Men were all standing on the masculine side and the women were all standing on the feminine side, and we had all been on the masculine with our back turned to the feminine because that's where we've been. And it was just like this grim, horrible feeling of like, and everyone's like, this is so horrible. I'm like, yeah, this is where we are. Like, clock it. This is where we are. I want you to feel how uncomfortable this is, because this is the reality as it is, that has been completely normalized. Like,
exactly.
We just aren't uncomfortable. We actually are, which is why we're so sick and mentally ill and killing ourselves all over the place and getting cancer. But it's been normalized. So it's like we're numb.
Denial.
We're numbed off over the top of it. But then I got the women to step back into the feminine and hold hands and start to open their bodies to the wisdom of nature. Just like to complete, slowly, one by one, the men start turning around in the masculine. 2 of them burst into tears. One of them fell to his knees. One of them just said, oh my God, thank God, now I know what I'm here for. Oh. Another one got completely angry, just furious with his own sex, and we held the circle so that the energy could bounce between the masculine waking up to his role of husbanding the feminine back into its fullness, and the feminine could just stand there in her rightful place, being honored by the masculine.
Exactly.
Because I always say to the men, you're kings, but you've lost your right to your crown.
Exactly.
You don't get to put your crown back on until you've put her back on her throne next to you.
Yes.
And she's got to put her crown back on, and then you can put your crown back on, because your role is as protector.
Exactly.
Protector and generator.
And that is exactly, it's so cool. That's why I asked the question about the animals, because that's what they informed me about. They informed me about what is the authentic dynamic. And so that combination between the trees know this, the animals know this, everybody has their role. And because we've gotten so out of balance, we have to go back to nature to understand this balance. We have to listen to the trees, have to listen to the animals. We have to listen to Mother Nature, because she's the one that created the dynamic balance. And so it's beautiful. But thank you. And Jocelyn, thank you. Claire, thank you for what you're doing and the voice that you are in the world. Jocelyn, thank you so much for what you're doing and your voice in the world. And it is just such an honor to be part of this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Being part of this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Have a beautiful day.
You too.
Thanks.
So if you need to go, love, by past, then we should wrap up, and I get to have my rant about everybody planting trees.
Okay, good, because somebody just asked, how can I help you and Tree Sisters? So yes.
Well, there are so many different ways. First of all, join. Like, everybody, please just join. treesisters.org/join. Or it could be not that, actually, it could be home/join. Anyway, go to Tree Sisters and join. What that'll do is it'll bring you into our newsletters. It'll invite you into the Inner Journey of Awakening, although I want you to come in anyway. The obvious thing is start giving money every month, because we'll plant that in the tropics. We're planting in Madagascar and India and Brazil and Nepal and Kenya and Cameroon. We're currently looking at Mozambique, Papua New Guinea, Haiti, and Amazonia. You know, we've planted 5 million trees. I thought it would be 50 million by now. I thought everybody, once they knew that trees were carbon made visible, that everybody would be giving. If you are flicking switches, eating food that you've cooked, or wearing clothes that have traveled, or driving in a car that's not electric, or, you know, if you don't know where your electricity is coming from, you are warming our planet. Please help us cool it down. We will plant fast growing tropical trees, which basically clean up what you're emitting. And it's not what's the least I can give to give to trees, it's what's the most you can give right now to give to trees. If you have a company, figure out whether your company can give. If you're part of a church, figure out whether your church can give. Tree Sisters is about normalizing reciprocity with the natural world. If we're going to make this shift to where it is as normal to give back as it is to currently take it for granted, it's going to take all of us. Now we're about to campaign, which means we're going to be looking out for volunteers. We're going to be looking out for pollinators. We're going to, you know, if you come into the system and you start to pay attention, then we can start to call you into all these different things. You know, if you come into our community on Mighty in the Nest, then you can start to figure out different areas where your creativity could be given, or where we can talk about local planting together, or if you want to do research with us, or, you know, how do your gifts make sense for us to try and get this message out to the world? There's going to be so many different ways. And meanwhile, we get to nourish you every month. If you're donating, you get an audio gift from me. Every month you get a free full moon call with me all the time. You've got all these free, endless backlog of healing meditations and tools in our Femiversity. You know, you have a global community of Tree Sisters around the world who are actively, emotionally supporting each other to step into their leadership. Come in, join in, the water's fine. And it's so amazing having a global sisterhood standing behind you. It makes everything feel possible. And most of all, please just be fed up of colluding with a world that makes no sense, and find your roar. And if you can't find it, find some really loud music and put it on, and think about what's happening in our world and dance until you can roar. It took me a long time to learn how. And don't be afraid if after you've roared you cry. Like, really get intimate with your snot. It is an alchemical, miraculous substance designed to set you free. So yes to tears, and yes to laughter, and yes to outrageousness, and yes, just yes to you, every single one of you. Yes to the more that is coming through. And thank you, Jocelyn, for letting me have one of my rants as usual.
It was lovely. Yes, thank you, Claire, so much for being a part of this event. I know you're so busy. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today and to share. So to share your roar, to share from your heart, all of it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Love to you all.
Yes, lots of love to everybody. And also share this video. I will send this YouTube link out. Share it with everybody you can. This is important.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lots of love to you, Claire. And lots of love to everybody out there. Thank you so much for attending this event. Thanks for those who have been on live with us and those who have watched this as a recording. And yeah, go out and take action in the way that has come through to you as you have engaged in this event.
And more trees, please. More trees.
Yes, and give to Tree Sisters.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Claire. Bye.